So I'm a CPA by trade. I spent a better part of my career working in public accounting, and then in COVID branched off into industry. Did industry for about 3 years in accounting and finance, and then recently ventured off on my own. So since September, I have my own consulting practice now, and I consult sort of freelance for clients across Canada and the US. I actually started spending a little bit more time from home even before we went into lockdown. Depends on the employer. When I had my accident about 15 years ago, the company that I was working for at that time, they were super accommodating. It was a big accounting firm called BDO. And BDO actually allowed me to work from home even before COVID was even a thing. And so I had a designated space in my home. I worked, and actually with public accounting, it's even easier because you're on a billable time model. So you track every 6 minutes of your time. It's actually quite nice because the firm, they know exactly how you're spending your day because you're billing your time accordingly. So if you do the work and you're billing the client for it, then you're putting in the minutes that are spent working on the account.
Why did it work so well? What kind of benefits did you see?
The commute. So I lived in Toronto and my office was in Markham. So it was tough, especially like the software and the evolution of how we operate. A lot of it is, computer-based work, right? It's like public accounting is predominantly on a computer. We're not sort of looking at manual invoices the way we used to. There's certain aspects that are still sort of requiring that, but most of the time, a lot of the work that you get today is digital. So in a digital environment, it's, you can work from anywhere, and as long as the time is being tracked, I think, people trust that you will do the work. I don't think anyone has a big problem with it. I miss the team environment sometimes, especially, it's one thing when you have the option to come in, and so and you choose to sort of work from home, and that's fine. But there's times where you want to come in and you can't, and so that part is definitely challenging. There are times where, in fact, like you wanted to be in the room with the team, and so I would actually host the working sessions here, and I do that with my clients now. If we need to, we set up. I have all the rooms set up with a connector, so I can pair the monitors to the TVs, and we use the living room as a working room. So brainstorming sessions, anything major that we need to, presentations.
Right on. You sound like a really busy person in a really fast-moving industry.
Yeah.
So I understand you've had a very complex pressure sore, and I want to ask, how do you manage that within the industry that you're in?
I had the sore while I was working for a company out in Vaughan. The sore was pretty advanced. It took about 2.5 years to get through the whole process from beginning to end. Luckily, my employer was really accommodating, so I was working from home, and at that time, pretty much exclusively from my bed. Even when I was in the hospital, it would still, sort of have the tray set up there and work from the tray there. The employer didn't push me to so no one forced me to work, but it was, a good way to take my mind off of what was going on and to keep me distracted and focused on getting better. The wound, it was on the right side, so I kind of had to stay a little bit tilted, but otherwise, as long as I was, flat as much as possible, it was fine.
So how do you organize scheduling and with your healthcare professionals and all these things?
Yeah, so at the time that I had the wound, it was kind of interesting because we were in the midst of a pretty serious system implementation. And so there were days where the nurses couldn't really accommodate the time, and I had meetings that couldn't be moved, and so I had to be a part of them. So literally, I would sit there like off camera, in the shower, like in the tub, doing my calls just so as a fly on the wall, listening in.
Right. What about supports? What kind of support helps you best through your coworkers and?
Yeah, I find my coworkers, you'd be like, I think when you tell them what's going on with you and you're like, hey, there's a hole in my body and it needs to regrow all this flesh, and People are genuinely sort of concerned for your health, and especially when you show that you are trying and you're still working through it. People care. I've been very fortunate. All my employers and my staff, my teams, they've been very supportive through all of my experiences. So it's a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding from the people that I work with, and they accommodate quite a bit. Again, I'm pretty fortunate to have good teams. I find if you have a routine and you have a set schedule and the nurses are communicating with you, it does help. And you can set your schedule. I live by my calendar, and so it does take a lot of this thinking out of the equation when you know exactly when things are going to happen.
Are there any other resources or assistive devices perhaps that help you, like a specific table or something like that?
I have an air cushion, so if sitting in my chair is too much, I do transfer to an office chair. It's got more back support, and there's an air cushion component in there that allows me to essentially adapt that chair. Other than that, in bed I have a roll, like a foam roll, and it kind of just puts me on my side. But that's pretty much it. The wound is significantly better now than it was the first time around. I also have the team already established from the first time around, and so there's been a lot of progress on this one. And so I'm managing it very differently than spending a lot more time, at my desk, still going out, still driving, but just regular appointments, watching the progression. Nothing's really changed. I'm still working from bed, I'm doing a balance, but I am, I'm upright right now. So, but it's, you can't do it all day. So normally I'm in my chair, 14 hours a day, no problem. I'm at my desk for hours and hours, and that's no problem. Now can't really do that. I find you get one life. It's one experience, and so if you're gonna lay around and feel sorry for yourself, then you're gonna miss out on the one experience that you have. So you kind of can. There's bad days. Don't get me wrong. There's days where you're not feeling great, and nothing's going the way it should, and then you surround yourself with people who really don't care about the embarrassing things that happen, and they do. And especially anyone who's in a chair knows, I've had bad milk before, and I've gone to work, and that wasn't fun. But you kind of move on, and the next day is better. And I'm very fortunate to have good people in my life, my family, my friends. Everyone supports me, and so I find for me personally, if people are willing to put up with me, I'm willing to go and do the stuff. So that's really the sort of my outlook on it. If you're willing to put yourself out there, people want you there, and they're willing to accommodate. And so you can't sit around and mope, because otherwise you're gonna let all these experiences pass you by.